Okay, let's take a trip back in time, about 2,500 years, to explore a philosophy of education that you'll see feels incredibly modern. We're going to dive into the Analects of Confucius to understand not just how to learn, but how learning itself is the real path to becoming more fully human. You see, for Confucius, the whole foundation of learning wasn't about boring memorization or just doing your duty. No, it all started with joy. He saw it as a kind of a three-step ladder. Just knowing something is the first step, sure, but actually liking it, that's better. And the highest rung on that ladder, delighting in it. That pure delight, that's the real engine of education. And this image, well, it just nails that core idea, doesn't it? Real, genuine learning isn't some chore. It's a delight. It's not something that's forced on you. It's an experience you actively find pleasure in. That initial spark of fun is where the whole journey really kicks off. So that's our first big idea, the joy of learning. It's what turns education from just a task you have to do into a passion you want to follow. But here's the thing. This journey was never meant to be a solo mission. For Confucius, learning is fundamentally a conversation. It's all about human connection. So yeah, get that picture of a boring professor just droning on and on to a passive audience right out of your head. The Confucian model was all about interaction. It was a conversation, not a one-way street. It was a living, breathing conversation. I mean, look at this, a dynamic back and forth between the teacher and the students, usually in a super informal setting like a courtyard or just chilling under a tree. It was about questions, answers, and figuring things out together as a community. This is so key. The student had to be an active participant. The teacher actually waits for them to get stuck, to feel that frustration. You have to really wrestle with the problem first. Only then, once you're really engaged, do the teacher step in, and not to give you the answer, but just to offer a little nudge in the right direction. And here you can see exactly what that looks like. The student is grappling with the text, totally absorbed in the challenge. The teacher's role isn't to hand out easy answers. It's to guide a student who is already deep in the struggle on their own. Okay, so we've got joy and we've got conversation, but even that isn't enough. For any of this to actually stick, thinking makes it real. You have to internalize the information and really process it. Confucius saw learning as this delicate balancing act. On one side of the scale, you've got study, that's taking in information. On the other side, you have reflection, thinking deeply about what it all means. You can't just have one, you absolutely need both. And these two images show you exactly what happens when that scale is off balance. Study without reflection, that's folly. You're just reciting empty words. But reflection without study, well, that's risky. You're just lost in a bunch of confused thoughts. The goal is to build a solid bridge between the two. Now, this whole process of learning and thinking, it doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It connects us to something much bigger, the wisdom of the ages, this long chain of human thought stretching back for generations. You know, what's fascinating is that Confucius didn't see himself as some kind of radical inventor of new ideas. Not at all. He saw himself as a crucial link in a chain, a caretaker of ancient wisdom whose job it was to understand it, embody it, and then pass it on. And the goal wasn't to preserve tradition like some dusty museum piece. It was about engaging with it, wrestling with it, and making that ancient wisdom a living, breathing part of your own character. So how did this all work? Well, it follows this really structured path of self-cultivation. It starts on the outside with the investigation of things and extending your knowledge. Then it moves inward to achieve sincerity in your thoughts and getting your mind right. And only from that solid internal foundation can you move outward again to cultivate yourself as a person and have a positive influence on your family and community. It's a journey from knowledge to character. So you might be thinking, why does this 2,500-year-old approach to education still matter today? The answer, I think, is in this idea of the timeless student. It really challenges us to ask, what does this mean for us right now? It means we need to move beyond just scrolling and consuming data and start asking how we can use knowledge to actually cultivate ourselves as better human beings. You know, when you boil it all down, the lessons from the Analects are just timeless. Find the joy in what you're learning. Look for dialogue, not just data dumps. Balance your studying with deep thought. Connect with the past to understand the present. And most of all, see all of this as a lifelong path. This isn't just about school.
It's about the art of living a good life. I mean, look at this. The image of a student rustling with ideas, that's universal. It doesn't matter if the medium is a bamboo scroll or a tablet screen, that fundamental human drive to learn, to understand, and to grow, that stays exactly the same.
And so, ultimately, the Analects challenges every single one of us to be students of life. It leaves us with a question that's just as powerful today as it was 2,500 years ago. How will you make learning a joyful, lifelong part of who you are?